How the watchmaker saved the banker. Friday, the city hall clock showed 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The banker glanced outside and counted down the minutes until the end of the workday. There weren't many clients left. At home, a delicious dinner awaited him, followed by a weekend getaway to his country house. There, the banker and his family could enjoy a green lawn, a small pool, a barbecue, and a garden. In his mind, the banker was already there, in his little slice of paradise. The police patrol was in a hurry to wrap up their duties. 2 careless coachmen had gotten distracted and the carriage collided with the merchant's cart. The accident blocked the exit from the square near the town hall. A report needed to be filed for the traffic accident, scattered goods had to be cleared, and the passage had to be reopened. They also had to figure out who was at fault and who should be fined. The coachmen, as usual, pointed fingers at each other, shouting, "It's all his fault!" The police were rushing because the bank closed at 5 and they wanted to collect their wages before the weekend. After all, the dullest weekends are those without money. The watchmaker was sleeping at home. He had spent the entire night out with friends, visiting all the entertainment venues in the city. By morning, he was exhausted, barely making it home before collapsing into bed, not even bothering to take off his shoes. In principle, there was nothing wrong with this. The watchmaker did this every day. His job was to wind the city hall clock, a task that only needed to be done once a year. So, for an entire year, the watchmaker would party all night and sleep all day. The trouble was that he had last wound the clock exactly 1 year ago, and the procedure had to be repeated on this very day. But the watchmaker was in a dead sleep. However, the mayor of the city knew exactly what to expect from the watchmaker, so he was already making his way to his house, ominously tapping his cane on the steps. The robbers were sitting in the basement of a bakery located on the square near the town hall. Their plan was simple. At 5 o'clock, the banker usually locked up the bank and didn't return all weekend. So after 5 o'clock, they could confidently break in, enter, and empty the vault of all its gold. It was still Friday. The city hall clock showed 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The banker cheerfully whistled a tune. Just 1 more hour of work and he'd be on his way to his idyllic country retreat with a pool, lawn, barbecue and garden. There were hardly any clients left in the bank. Very soon he could begin tallying the day's profits, close the cash register and head off into the weekend. The police patrol had already determined who was responsible for the traffic incident. A street urchin had tried to steal an apple from the merchant's cart. The merchant noticed this and tried to snatch the fruit back from the boy, failing to notice the oncoming carriage. Since the street urchin had escaped, the merchant was blamed. After all, a merchant should prioritize watching the road over worrying about apples. The police just needed to clear the road, but only an hour remained until the bank closed. The watchmaker snored so loudly that the windows in neighboring houses shook and milk in pitchers turned into butter. That's why he didn't hear the furious knocking on his door or the stream of colorful curses. The mayor, who stood on the other side of the door, cursing the carousing watchmaker, sent a messenger to fetch a couple of strong men. The robbers, still sitting in the bakery basement, were checking the most important thing, whether the bags had any holes. Of course, coins could spill out of a hole and the robbers would lose part of their loot, but the most dangerous thing about the holy bag was that the trail of spilled gold would make it too easy to track them down. It was still Friday, 5 o'clock in the evening, though the city hall clock showed 4:57. The clock had stopped. The banker had escorted all the clients out, counted the profits, closed the cash register, and headed for the exit, eagerly anticipating his trip. At that moment, the breathless police officers burst into the bank. "Phew, we made it," said one of them, sporting a dashing mustache. "Hand over our wages, Mr. Banker." "Aren't you a bit late?" the banker replied. "No, not at all. Have a look yourself." The youngest policeman pointed at the town hall clock. "It's 3 minutes to 5. We made it." "Strange," muttered the banker as he returned to the cash register. "I have a strong feeling the workday should have ended by now."
Feelings are feelings, but they're not much of an argument against the hands on the main clock of the city.
Meanwhile, the two strong men summoned by the mayor broke down the watchmaker's door and rudely shook him awake. "What's going on?" he asked, shaking his head.
"What's going on?" The mayor fumed. "There is only one thing you're responsible for, and you failed miserably. The clock has stopped and is already 3 minutes behind. Get to winding it up now."
The watchmaker lazily slid off the bed and made his way to the town hall. There he climbed up to the clock, wound the mechanism, and set the hands to the correct time. The robbers were still in the basement checking their bags when one of them glanced out the window. His face stretched in surprise, and he nudged the comrade sitting next to him. "Hey guys, time sure flies. Just a moment ago it was 4:53, and now look, it's 5:03. Time to move out." And so the robbers approached the main doors of the bank. The lockpicker leaned over the lock and started fiddling with it, but the door immediately gave away. "Strange," he said. "Is it unlocked?" The robbers entered and found themselves face to face with the police patrol. "Oh," the robbers exclaimed.
"And who do we have here?"
the police officers said, drawing their pistols. "We were just out for a walk," one of the robbers replied.
"Just out for a walk? Came to the bank after hours in these silly black masks, fiddled with the lockpick and walked right in, huh?"
The policeman with mustache clarified.
"That's right,"
the robbers confirmed.
"And you just happened to bring bags with you?"
We were going to buy some potatoes at the market," one of the robbers answered hesitantly.
"Hands up," the policeman said, raising his pistol. "Now we're all going to the station where we'll sort out exactly what kind of potatoes you were planning to buy at the bank after hours."
The police tied up the criminals and took them away. The banker wiped his sweat from his brow with a handkerchief and looked at the clock. It showed 5:10. He sighed, stepped outside, locked the bank door behind him, and headed off to his picnic. And who knows what might have happened if the town hall clock had been ticking smoothly that day.